Here we are again. Welcome back, Hicksville Winter Drumline. So part 2. Really, to learn this, I break it down measure by measure. To learn it, I wrote it, so I should know it, right? But I do have to learn kind of how it goes in its own playing context. So I start on measure 9. I won't spend too much time on measure 9. Measure 10 is more important, but 1 and buzz, 3 and 4 en. Process that I'll use for every measure after this, if I am novice, or even sometimes if I come across some harder measures as at a more advanced level, is I try and figure out, as I said, one measure at a time. Right, left, right, right, left, right, left. Simple, but if we don't know those patterns already, if we haven't learned them, don't feel them beforehand, we're going to want to spend some time on it. And I would take it very slow to begin with. 1 and 2, 3 and 4 en. Once I can get the whole measure in there, I like to loop it. Just repeat it, one after the other. 1 and 2, 3 and 4 en. 1 and 2, 3 and 4 en. 1 and 2, 3 and 4 en, etc. Now, as new players, and if you haven't downloaded a metronome yet, or you're not using one on the internet, or you haven't bought your own personal battery-powered metronome, as new players, you will probably tend to get faster. And then, okay, great, I can play that measure fast, right, and move on. But no, not really, because you have definitely understood the measure and the stickings in that measure, but you have not understood the way it lays under your hands at a specific isolated single tempo. And it's very important that we understand how it lines up against that metronome, because it's the only thing that connects us back to the 15, 18 other drummers that we practice with and perform with at our games. So measure 10, we have 2 rudiments in here. The first one is the flam, and that's that little note before the downbeat of the measure. A flam gets played with a low note and a grace note, and a primary note. Okay. If you're not familiar with them, if you're new to flams and they're throwing you for a loop, as long as you have the sticking in there, you can leave them out. But I would like you to attempt them and get to know them here. The grace note's always got to be lower than the main note. Otherwise we get a popped flam. I digress. The passage, measure 10, the measure goes. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 4 en. Okay? Into measure 11, we have another flam, so we get hand-to-hand stuff going on. Alright? Gonna be good for you to practice. Very mechanical, very up and down flams, as well as upstroke, downstroke. In each hand. Okay? Again, a lot of times I'll talk about practicing our upstrokes. They're really cool as a building block of our rhythms and hand passages. Okay? So we have what I'll call a 9-stroke roll in there, because if you look underneath the roll in measure 10, you see that I put 4 hash marks. 2 of them are barred, 2 are each barred together. And that's indicating that I want you to pulse those as 16th notes. Okay, so if I take the Z's out, if I take the buzzes out of that, I have okay, all I'm doing, that's our check pattern. All I'm doing is adding buzzes to those 16th notes, and we get that very consistent, very even, very timed roll. Again, to a metronome, okay? That's really all I wanted to say about that measure. I could talk about separating our hands, but I'll save it for another video. If you look at measure 12, it's basically the same thing, except the 16th note check roll goes on until beat 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 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 4. Okay? So really by breaking down one measure at a time, I've broken down 2 measures. And they're just very related to each other. What I would do though, before I moved on from like, say 10 is, I'd go back to measure 9, obviously, logically. I would add 9, I would put 9 and 10 together. 2, again, 2, 3, 4. Etc. Measure 11 isn't anything to write home about. We have the flam on the downbeat, and then a bunch of a right hand and a bunch of left hands. 1, 2, and 3, and 4. And I add that stick flip in there, that stick twirl. That's just turning my hand over. The stick stays parallel to the ground, and it spins from the bead. Right? If you're having trouble with it at home, you could do it yourself. You do see I am opening my hand up. I'm holding the stick at the fulcrum. Very important. I can do it both ways, which is cool. And we're only going to be going to the outside with it. We'll be twirling away from us first as opposed to towards us first. But it will help you get the fluidity of this motion. I can do it very fast. We could do it nice and slow is also cool. If you practice both ways, you know, just things to mess around with while you're hanging out watching a movie this holiday season. So I put together 9, I put with 10. I know how measure 11 goes. 12 is almost the same thing as measure 10. I could put that whole line together. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, then we get to line 2. Measures 13 and 15 are pretty much exactly the same, except for the downbeat, where I have a quarter note on 13, I have a rest on 15. But the hand pattern there is something that might be new to you guys, who, I know we have a few new students in our winter drum line. We have some students who might not be playing diddles in our veteran section, and some students from the pit. But really, this is going to be a learned thing, something to practice. Just right, left, left. We call them diddles or doubles, or sometimes even duples. So that measure 13. 1, 2E and a 3 and 4N. I just don't play it hand to hand. I play right, left, left, right, left, left. And again, if that's a new pattern to you, it's going to be a lot of breaking down. Real slow, right, left, left, right, left, left, until you can add it into the rhythm. Now that's when I can play very fast. The other thing I'd like to do, if I was playing this here, because that quarter note is kind of so disconnected from the rest of the rhythm, I might just play it as a measure of 3. So 1, 2, 3. That I can play very, very fast. etc. 14 and 16, basically the same measure. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 16, 1, 2, and 3, and 4. We put those together. 1. We have ourselves Sean Paul temperature, or at least the snare drum part to the chorus. Thanks for watching. I hope you have questions. I hope you post some videos, or, you know, message me if you have anything you're not sure about. More to come.